Here comes recording.
Got it.
I love how you get that message. No more, no more stealth recording.
Gives you a warning like put your clothes on or don't say anything cruel.
Right. Okay, here it comes. All right. So you all know this is actually Smart Start. So I'm supposed to go through the basics, but I'm going to start since who's on the line right now. Not as many of those that are newer. I'll just go right into it. And I did take the class this morning. I do recommend it. He's going to go into more detail than I am. So that way, yeah, you can all go do other things. But also, everybody that's on here, actually, I'll send this out. I'll send out a copy of the contract. If you haven't looked at it, you know, you see it's here, it's right here right now. You can also go to CAR and they have it there. One other very big thing to say is there's a good chance this is not the final one, and how that's possible between now and December, it's kind of crazy, but it could change is what I was told. Marie took a class that was offered by an attorney that actually was involved in creating this. And she said it was a little more detailed than the one I attended today. So anyways, here it goes. Couple big changes. First of all, what was 10 pages is now 16 pages. Oh, ooh, okay. However, it feels very similar to the regular contract. So here it goes. You know, address, buyer's name, all that good stuff at the top, date prepared up there. And for those that don't know this, when you refer to an offer at a later date, let's say you refer to it in the escrow instructions, or you refer to it in the counter offer, you're referring to the date prepared, not the date that this was signed. So when you hear later RPA dated, it's this date. Just FYI, in case you never knew, when I hear date prepared or RPA dated blank, it's this date, not the date it was signed. Okay. Can't see somebody that's trying to join. Sorry. Oh, here it goes. Okay. The other thing that has not changed is here. So the confirmation, for those of you that haven't done it this way or don't know it, let me just point it out. If you are putting in who you are, so on seller's brokerage, you're writing in, let's say you are the listing agent. Let's say you represent both. Why not? Actually, let's make it different just for a second. So you are writing this offer and the seller's brokerage is XYZ Realty. So you'll write in XYZ Realty here, the license number of that brokerage. You have to check off the seller box. So leaving it unblanked, leaving it unchecked either here or here, these two places, will make it where Carmen will dish out a form doing confirmation of agency. So if you want to avoid one more piece of paper, make sure you check off for the listing agent that it's the seller, and for you as the buyer's agent that you check off buyer. All right, so you got that. So here's where it gets different. So before we used to be, remember we had the price up here, and then we'd have the price on page one, we kind of have it at the bottom. So now it's down here, and I'm just gonna briefly scroll for a second so you can see it. So you start here, this is all kind of the money stuff right here. There is some other stuff, and I'm just gonna briefly keep going. It continues with some more stuff there. Has the big one here. This is the big one we're gonna talk about a lot in a second. All the contingency stuff on this area. The possession is here. Some of the fees are here towards the bottom, letter N. Okay. I think this is funny. O was intentionally left blank. Apparently they didn't want to have a line O. Is that like being on the 13th floor? I don't know. P goes over what's included and excluded. Allocation of costs, who's going to pay for what is here. Okay. And then guys, it gets kind of normal after that. And we're not going to go over this entire thing tonight. Okay. So just let me scroll. So if it's the first time you're looking at it, you can at least see it looks relatively similar to the other one. Okay. Mentions here about the contingencies. In other words, things that were mentioned in the boxed area above, it's giving the explanation here, just like it did before. There are some changes. Again, we're not going to go over all of them. I'm going to spend most of this time in the boxed area on the first 3 pages. Okay. It explains a little bit better about no appraisal contingency. That's interesting. Okay. Investigation. Okay. Condo stuff. So again, I'm going to briefly just kind of go over it since we're here. Oops, someone's trying to get in. All right. Back to the items included and excluded, which are in the current contract, same thing. It expands on it though. I don't exactly remember, but I will say something about with TVs. You are to remove the bracket, I believe. We're not going to hold me to that completely, but we'll dive into that another time. But so it's doing a better job on this new version of included and excluded. It's a lot more detailed than the previous one. You can see it talks about security systems, home automation with all the smart home stuff. So that's pretty interesting. Okay. And so on. Oh, we get the sheriff. Carmen's about to join. So going into the disclosures. Okay. I guess I am going to stop here for one thing. Home warranty. Do you notice that right there? Home warranty. Buyer shall choose the coverages regardless of any optional coverages indicated of the home warranty plan, and buyer shall pay any cost of that plan chosen by buyer that exceeds the amount allocated to seller in paragraph 3Q18, which was in the box, right? Buyer is informed that home warranty plans have many optional coverages, including but not limited to coverages for AC and pool. Buyer is advised to investigate these coverages to determine those that may be suitable for buyer. So the reason I'm bringing this up is when we go back in a second to look at the boxed information, this is one change. Carmen, hi Carmen.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm not sure how this is going to affect it for you going forward.
I think I'm checklist. One of the items is going to be, please advise what home warranty coverage, whether you're in the buyer, the seller is going to want us to order. So that's going to be another item on my list. And
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a deadline. I'm probably only going to give you 5 days to respond.
Okay. Yeah, well, because otherwise you're leaving it too long and you need to get ordering it.
Yeah.
But is that the case though, that they want it that the buyer is to choose, no longer doing the seller? Or am I reading that wrong?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just joined in right now.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. So what I was just going over and was, so it appears, and so we can dive into this another time, but yeah, it appears it's trying to say, okay, you know how we always do like seller's choice of
Seller's
escrows?
choice of service.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. But here it's saying even when that's the case, like it's trying to say that the
Buyer
default is that the
yes,
buyer gets to choose. So
yes.
anyways, so that's kind of a, that's a bit of a change.
Yeah, we're
Um,
gonna have to talk to your dad about the E&O insurance, maybe owner, whatever home warranty the buyer chooses to um, purchase um, must include the crest coverage.
right, as long as it includes crest, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So I was saying earlier, I'm not going to spend as much time here as I am on the first 3 pages where we have all those, check off this, check off that kind of stuff. But here's one more change under the disclosures. Um, it finally mentions the fire hardening. I don't remember it being in the RPA. I don't think it was. So it's mentioning about that and the defensible space. There you go. We are going to have a class given by Pam in a few weeks. It may be next month, where she's going to go over these two to help us with that. Um, all right, so you can still waive the lead base. That's fine. Okay. Talks about your termination rights. Okay. All makes sense. So again, if I see something that looks different is why I'm stopping. Otherwise, it's just kind of your first glance at this, and that's okay. There's the natural hazard. There's the known material facts. They kind of changed how they said that, but it's the same idea. It's just they bolded this where it wasn't before. And it was kind of hidden within the inspection, within the part where it says what seller has to disclose and talking about the inspection. So they kind of, and here's the inspection right here, number 12. So that's the same. Then we got title. So again, it's fairly similar with regard to that after the first 3 pages. Can't believe I'm only on page 10. I'll just say that. Repairs still there. Final verification, the walkthrough not being a contingency of the sale is still the same. The fact that the contract becomes part of your escrow instructions or joint escrow instructions is the same. Okay, and I'm almost towards the end. We're on page 13. The definitions are still there. And okay, so that's, wow, look how far we went before we even got to liquidated damages.
Wow.
Here we go. All right. Looks
What it said something about legal signer on the previous page.
legally authorized signer. Yeah. Your reception,
Okay.
Carmen, for some reason is not good.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It just so you know, it goes in and out. But yeah, so wherever the signature or initials of the legally authorized signer identified in paragraph 32 or 33 appear on this agreement or any related documents, it shall be deemed to be a representative capacity for the entity described and not in an individual capacity. All right. Okay. All right. We're almost there. Here's the expiration like it was before. And you got me worried for a second that the RCSD wasn't there, but here it is. So if you do have an entity, you check this box off, and then you can go ahead. So the minute you check this off, tonight, by the way, is not a zip forms teaching you how to write an offer. In zip forms, it's more about the nitty gritties of the offer itself. But again, when you're in CAR, if you've had to write one for an LLC or a trust, when you check off that RCSD box on the current one, it should populate on the contract the RCSD dash whatever you're in. If you're on a listing agreement, it'll populate the dash S. If you're if you're here, it'll populate the dash B. I know there are 100, actually, give me a second. So I
But
was
Michael,
at,
it says Form RCSD is not required for the
is not
legal.
required. Okay, thank you.
So we don't need it anymore?
I'm not sure. Let's read one more time. If this paragraph is completed, a representative capacity signature disclosure is not required for the legally authorized signers designated below. So you just check off that you have an entity buyer, one, and then you just relate it to whatever is your case. So that is interesting. Okay, big change. I'm gonna write that down. We'll figure that out and ask one more time. So we're calling it an entity buyer instead of, okay.
Michael, I have one question. When does this purchase agreement go into effect?
Hi, Byron. Yeah, December.
December. Okay, okay.
The lawyer today said just one day it's going to drop and boom, there it is. And the old one will no longer be there. So, yeah, so we have a couple more months. Probably almost, 50 to 60 days before it opens, before it drops. So, all right. They have the additional signers, like the way they did before, the ASA, that's fine. Okay. If the offer is not accepted, which, since I have enough of you on the line, I'm going to mention something. We saw a problem recently where somebody tried to, got really upset that they found out it closed escrow for a price that was lower than what they offered. And they took it really far, like DRE far in their complaint. And so one way to make sure that you never have it where someone can come back is just to make sure that you're having your seller's initial if it's been rejected, or in this case, not accepted, right? So to have them initial right here and date is, a good practice. How many times have I done that this year? Okay, I'll admit the answer is 0. But going forward, actually, I got one right now on Donovan, the 2 on Donovan. When I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and have my seller initial basically the rejection, so that way they can at least see that it was presented. That's where the problem.
Mel expressed the other day that we should be submitting the rejected offers as well. So as a TC, I would recommend that you guys open a folder in your .loop file named rejected offers.
Okay.
And maybe upload them there.
Just throw them all in. Yeah.
My kind suggestion.
Okay.
That's
well,
an idea.
You're talking about for the listing side, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah. So if you have
maybe the purchase too. We'll talk to Mel about it.
Well, with Talicia's question, I mean, if you represent a buyer, you're not going to have rejected offers.
But you're going to have,
But
you are going to
that
have
buyer, yeah,
offers because the seller is going to reject your offer.
Oh.
I had a seller multiple counter sent to us, and my buyer was she didn't understand. She was upset about it because she offered like 15K over asking, and how the scenario has been going recently. So we didn't know, like, why did we even receive a counter if they had over, 10 multiple offers, so.
Yeah. But Carmen,
I'll talk to your dad about it, but I know last time he did express that it would be a good idea to have them. And technically, if you represent a buyer, you are going to have, buyer rejected offers as well. But
that's
I
fine.
think for sure
if it's rejected, it didn't go anywhere. I mean, it's in your zip forms, or it's in your DocuSign, or it's there.
Or maybe if you have the seller's signature on there.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I'll talk to your dad about it. For sure, the seller wants, if possible.
Right.
Yeah, Carmen, we usually don't even receive like a rejection or anything when we submit offers. If anything, the the agent just sends us an email saying that our offer was not accepted. That's the best that we've come across. If not, they usually don't even respond. And we usually see it on the MLS saying that it's already pending. So we're assuming another offer was accepted. That's how sometimes we find out.
Right.
When
Yes,
it's in a-
maybe I'm just being a little going overboard. So I'll talk to Mel about it, but I feel like the seller ones we should be putting in .loop
Yeah, the seller one, yeah.
Okay.
for
If-
now.
If that's the case, do you think the email will be acceptable?
Yes, the email would be acceptable, but let me talk to Mel first and we'll bring it up in one of our meetings with
Okay.
regards to the buyer offers.
Okay.
So I'll talk to Mel and we'll bring it up at one of the meetings.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
So here's a change. You no longer have to put your fax number that you don't have anymore. You don't, that's interesting. So here
Thank
for
God.
the buyer's agency here, you put the ad information, and here's where you're going to sign. And it's interesting how it does it. Has put your email address, put the number that you use for text. That's interesting. Or any alternate numbers. Oh, it does. Oh, it does have the address. Okay. So there you go. So you still put your address. If checked, delivery shall be made to the alternate designated electronic delivery address only. Okay. All right. So I guess it's for communication purposes, so that way everyone can find you. There you go. Escrow's there, presentation's there, and we are at the end. Okay. Thoughts, questions thus far before as I scroll back to page 1. Yeah, so far.
Michael, is there a way we could get a copy of this sample?
Yes, I'm going to send it to everybody tomorrow.
Okay, copy.
Everyone, yeah. Okay, so last week at CAR, I took notes. I ended up in a class and somebody said something that was just like, wow. Give me a second. I'm going, sorry. Okay, if I find it. So the big one was there's going to be 100 different forms that will change in some way, shape, or form. 100 in the next, in December. When the change happens, they're going to change over 100 forms. So you don't see that every day. Yeah, so you can't see this, but yeah, of course, the big one is going to be the RPA, of course. The other interesting thing, yeah, so, okay, I'll stop there. I'll bring up some of that stuff another day. All right, so we got purchase price, goes right here. All right. If it's all cash, you can check off this box. Great. If you're checking off this box, okay, then you're going to have, well, we'll keep going. Close of escrow will happen, blank days will go here. So many days, let's say 30 days after acceptance, or you can still write in a date. That will go right here. Expiration of the offer, just like before. The default is 3 days, or if you want to press harder, you can change that there. The initial deposit will go here, okay? Or if it's a certain percentage. I don't think we had that before, right? We couldn't do percentage. So now you can, yeah. So if you want to write in a percent instead of a dollar amount.
Is that for the purposes of counter offers going back and forth, that the price is different? It raises the deposit to the percentage of that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like if it's on an $800,000 and you write it 24,000, and if it ends up being 900, and they don't counter you, if they don't counter you at 3% or ask you to do 27,000 or whatever, yeah, that works. Okay. Still, I know most of you here know this, but I'm just going to point it out. The default with the deposit is still a wire transfer. You see here? So if you want to make it something different, you check it off. So within 3, that's the default, within 3 business days after acceptance, it's to be sent by wire. Or if you check this box off, you can say personal check, cashier's check.
So does that mean either or?
If you check off the box,
I
yeah,
would
it would
think
be
so,
either.
yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I know we've had in the past where we're assuming wire, and then the buyer wants to bring a check in, and then escrow wants to do an amendment for that.
just for the, yeah.
Yeah,
So if you write an offer and you write personal check, that way they don't have to do an amendment.
yeah.
That's good. Good point. Okay, you can still do increased deposits like you did before. However, the big add-on is this, because how many times are we willing to do that increase once we remove a certain contingency? So there you go. So it gives you the option to say, we'll increase it, so much upon removal of contingencies or a certain date or something you want to say. Maybe you want to say, we'll increase the deposit once the seller finds a house, or once we remove all our contingencies, or be specific about a certain contingency. You could do that there. Okay. Loan amount, just like before. So you have a first right here. Okay. The amount. You can also write percent of the price. So remember before you had to write, I'm going to use let's just use a big number just for a quick and easy. If it was $1 million and it was 20% down, what percent of the price, if you're putting 20% down, what percent is the loan amount?
80.
80. Okay. So before you'd have to put in, and I know $1 million makes it easy, it would be 800,000, but you'd have to, do the math on a calculator, do 0.8, and then write it in.
Oh, so it's not gonna populate it for you anymore?
So, well, but you'd have to think about it before, but now I don't know if you're putting 20% down,
Right.
if you put 80% here, if it's instantly going to put the price in.
Right,
we haven't
all the
used,
rest of the numbers would appear for you, so.
right. So I'm not sure, but that would be nice. So same thing from before. However, the interest rate is a fixed rate. Okay, or if you want to talk about an adjustable, you can write that there. Buyer to pay so many points, or the default is that the buyer to pay 0 points. That's interesting. You got that? The default is that the buyer will be paying no points for his loan. So careful. If the buyer ends up paying points, then the buyer may be able to get out of it.
Yeah.
So that's got to be careful. 17 days after acceptance. Okay, so I'm honestly not sure. Does anybody understand what they're getting at there?
No.
I'm not sure why they wrote 17 days after acceptance. Actually, I'm going to write
Maybe
that
that
down.
has to do with the
Contingency
FHA.
period.
No, contingency, isn't it 15 days?
No, it's I mean, it used to be 21, but are we talking about contingencies? We haven't even gotten to contingencies.
Michael, maybe that's referring to what's on the left in that box. FHA or VA checked a delivered list of lender required repairs.
Perfect. That's got to be what it is.
Within 17 days.
That's got to be it. Okay. Yep. All right. Good call. Okay. However, on the right, the default type of loan that you're getting, the default is conventional unless you check it off. And I don't remember if on the old purchase agreement, it ever even referred to it as conventional. I'm not sure. I mean, I know that if you wanted to be FHA or VA, you had to check the box off just like here.
It didn't mention conventional.
It did
It
not
just
mention that, huh? Okay.
defaulted to conventional.
Okay, yeah, but now at least, I mean, it mentions it and yeah, it's default. Okay, so if you're gonna do some different financing, seller financing, which the attorney today went on and on about why you should not do that. All right. Okay, occupancy. So remember before the occupancy was kind of hidden, or not hidden, but it was on one of the other pages. Here it puts it first right up there. And if it's your primary residence, that is the default. If it's going to be a second home or an investment, you check it off here. So remember before it was, are you living there or not living there? Now they've changed it a little bit. Okay, so you put in the price up here and it will put it down here for you, right here, that's fine. You put in the deposit, that's fine. You put in the loan amount here, that's fine. I'm assuming that if you put 80% here and you put in the price, I'm assuming it will, I'm sorry, right here, I'm sorry. If you put 80%, I'm assuming it will put 800,000. If this was $1 million, it'll automatically do it for you is what I'm assuming. All right, and there you go. And then just like before, the balance of purchase price will just it'll do it for you. It'll do the math. You don't have to bust out a calculator for that. Okay. So moving on, this next part. Okay, I'm going to say one thing, and Carmen, you tell me if you know, if Marie has told you. I'm not clear on the reference. So we are on section 3, the terms of the purchase, right? And so purchase price here is referred to as 3A. Give me one more example. Loan amount is, we're under, basically it says 3 and then E. And so within 3E is the loan amount. And then if you have a second, it's E2, right? But what is the reference to this paragraph? Okay, I just figured it out. Sorry.
I think it's in it gives you the explanation on page 5.
Yes, okay.
A2.
Okay. All right. So when we refer to things, I guess is my question, if we ever have to refer to something in a counter, or if you're a buyer and you receive a counter and the listing agent refers to an item, if it's within these boxes, my question was going to be whether they refer to it as 3G or paragraph 5E. That's what I'm not clear on.
I'll ask Marie tomorrow, but I would have to say 3E1 because that's where you're stating like the number, like if loan amount, what your loan amount is, or your down payment, if that's what you're countering.
Right.
The deposit, I think I would refer to the specific box that has the specific.
So you think you'd refer to 3D?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to scroll for just a second.
To see her, get her opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to scroll because, like, for example, let me just, sorry, real quick. For example, loan amount is E, but over it also says paragraph 5C. So when you go to paragraph 5, which seems to be a lot of this, it's referencing it after the boxed items. So let's go to paragraph 5 and see if it talks about loans.
Yes, I think it gives you the explanation.
Right.
Is my take.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. There's the explanation. Perfect. Okay. So they took all the explanation that used to be embedded within and they put it after the boxed items. Okay. All right. All right. Moving on. So here in G, seller credit, if any, to the buyer. So if you want to ask for a credit, before you had to find some creative place to put it. Now you have a box for asking for closing costs. Your choice, whether you do a dollar amount or the percent of purchase price. It also makes reference that the default, if you're asking the seller for a credit, the default is that you're asking them for a credit for what? You see it? I mean, 99% of the time we ask for a credit for something for closing costs.
Closing costs.
Right. Yeah. So it's still that. If there were some reason that you were not going to use that term, you can check off other and say what you want.
I can't imagine what it would be though.
Yeah, because if you say if it's for roof, then you're going to alarm the lender,
You
right?
really can't say anything other than closing costs. That's not gonna get checked ever, I don't think.
Right. Right.
Or maybe if it's a cash deal, they could specify it there.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, it would have to be.
Yeah.
Seller to credit. Seller credit to be applied to closing costs.
So additional finance terms, G2 there used to have its own line up above, and that's used to be where we would write in, the credit that you'd want to ask
Mhm.
the seller, but it's still there. They left it there. In terms of verifying if it's a cash deal, there's the time frame, 3 days. Okay, if it's attached to the offer or if it's going to come in so many days later. Okay, you have to check off the box if you want to ask for more time, whether it's 3 days, which is the default, or another time. All right. The time frames for doing a walkthrough are here. That's good. It's up here now. The default is, of course, 5 days. Any assignment requests, that would be if you want to assign this transaction to another buyer. I'm assuming that's what that means. Like, we would do XYZ LLC or assignee. And that is escrow officers. They don't like that. So, but anyways, so here it would be if you want to make an assignment request that you have a certain number of days to do that. Okay. Okay, here comes the fun stuff, the contingencies. Oops. Okay, so default, look at that. It changed. The default is 17 across the board. So no more 17, 17, and 21. It's 17 across the board. Loan is 17. If you want to remove that contingency, you check the box off. Appraisal, based on an appraised value at a minimum of purchase price or blank. You can put in that you're saying there's an appraisal contingency as long as the appraised value comes in at a certain price. So you know how sometimes now we do, we're willing to pay $10,000 over appraised value, even if we offer this higher amount. Maybe now if you offer a higher amount, you say, you make that offer, but you can say that you will still buy it if it appraises for this amount or higher. That's okay. Okay. You can change it from 17 days to something less. You can make it no appraisal contingency. And look what it says. Removal of appraisal contingency does not eliminate appraisal cancellation rights in FVAC. Okay. Is it okay if I admit I don't know what FVAC is?
It's the FHA mandatory clause form.
Okay. So in other words,
If it's an FHA loan, the buyer could still cancel.
okay, because because before I've heard all those years on FHA, if it was less, technically they're not supposed to pay the difference anyways, right? Even though we always do that.
Correct. That is what the form says.
Okay. Okay. All right. So some people have Google helping them. I have Carmen. Thank you, Carmen. Appreciate it. Okay, investigation of property, 17 days, that's fine, or you can change it. Informational access to property. Interesting, 17 days. Okay, that makes sense. Buyer's right to access the property for informational purposes only is not a contingency and does not create additional cancellation rights for the buyer. Wow. Okay. On the side under the
Wait, Michael, let's go over that one again. What did that say exactly?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Read it slow. Hang on. Buyers, right? What?
I'm zooming in.
Oh, that's
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Buyer's right to access the property for informational purposes only is not a contingency. So,
What kind of everything's from informational purposes.
right, but it, like,
As a,
can you not say like,
What?
oh, well, you didn't give me access, so I'm backing out?
oh, buyer's rights is not a contingency and does not create,
So you can't back out just because they didn't give you access, or, I mean, I'm making that up
Well,
a
that-
little
but
bit.
that-
They have to have seen it in order to write an offer, unless they put other and subject to
Mhm.
interior.
Or what if the buyer wants to go in and measure something?
Right. Yeah.
well, that kind of makes it sound like the seller doesn't have to let you in the house and after the original offer is made. Is that what that says?
You know what? I think, let me ask you if this makes any sense. Because above it is investigation of property. So you
Sure.
have, so you have your 17 days to do.
Oh, yeah,
get in
yeah.
there and do what you want to do. But if you want to go back and do this and do that, they don't got to let you in.
Oh, okay, that actually
I
makes
think
sense.
that sounds like that might be it.
Yeah, you can't come in on the 21st day and be like, oh, I want a contractor to come in and
You're right. Yeah.
measure for carpet and all that. You're like, no, we don't have to let you in. Okay, that's what's got to be what it is, Gabe. That makes sense.
Because
That's the only thing that makes sense.
above is investigation. The bottom is informational. So
Yeah, oh,
Fair.
yeah,
it's
that's right.
just being a pain at that point.
All right. Next one, review of seller documents. You have 17 days to review them, like you did before, or 5 days after receipt, whichever is later. So if they give them to you right away, you still have 17 days. Okay, that's fair. Preliminary title report, you have 17 days to look at that. Common interest disclosures, 17 days, fine. Review of any leased or liened items, such as solar panels or propane tanks or PACE or Hero liens. Let me repeat that one more time. Review of leased or liened items, such as solar panels. You have 17 days, or 5 days after receipt, whichever is later. To be clear on why I repeated it. If you're not given the information about the solar panels until a very later date, because the escrow company or the listing agent, is dilly-dallying with it and doesn't give you the information to approve of it, you could end up having more than 17 days. So, I mean, that's technically the way it works now, but they're spelling it out, especially in today's day with the solar panel thing. Okay, so those items from number L3 to L7, well, I guess all the way up, but if you want to remove any of those contingencies, you would, you can do so. You would maybe check off the CR attach box on the right, and then you would attach your CR. I see many people doing that lately anyways, in this day and age. If you're removing a contingency, if you are removing a contingency going forward, they want you to use the CR, especially if it's related to the inspection. That's my takeaway there. So,
I have a question. What's the most common contingency you see removed when they submit the offer?
I mean, appraisal
Okay.
for sure. So yeah, I mean, these days, because it becomes so competitive, you're removing the appraisal many times right out the gate.
Yeah, if they have a big down payment, they're doing that. So
Yeah. So, second most common would be the loan, because they're really solid buyers, and you just remove it. And then of course the last one would be, removing the inspection, and you don't see it too often, and it's definitely not advised to remove all your contingencies up from the get-go. So, all right. L8 is the COP form. So, if you have a property to sell, this is where if you're a listing agent, your eyes will go. If you represent a buyer, again, same idea. Possession, interesting. So possession upon notice of recording or 6 p.m. on the date specified as applicable, okay? If it's seller occupied, so now it's at least, well, I mean, it did it before, it's just putting it in a nicer format, right? So seller occupied or vacant, COE date, or if checked below, blank days after COE or blank days after COE, whether it's 29, oh wow, whether it's 29 or fewer days that you're allowing the, let me rephrase, sorry. If you're giving possession to a seller for 29 or fewer days, and it's more than your typical 3, you would check that off. If it's 30 or more, you'll check off this box. One more time, let me say that one time. Let's say you want to give them the standard 3 days after the close of escrow. You would check off this first box and put a 3. No problem, right? Now, what time? So 3 days after, the time would be up here. And it was always fuzzy about what time. I think it's probably a good idea to just get in the habit of checking the 6 p.m. box.
Mhm.
So example, it's vacant. You check off 6 p.m. or maybe you want to change it and make it earlier, whatever. But I apologize. The default is when the escrow company tells you, congratulations, we just got confirmation of recording. That's it. That's the default as to when the keys will be transferred. Got it? So the default is when you get the email that there was confirmation of recording. If you don't want to do that and you want to make it a certain time on the, on that date, you can just check off 6 p.m. Got it? And then and so on. So if it's seller occupied or vacant, I'm trying to think, and I'm going to just open this up. If it's vacant and you want to give them the keys the day it closes or the day of recording, do you need to, you don't need to do anything, right? The default is 0 on the date of recording. Does everyone read it that way?
Right.
Yes.
So,
You can just add a time to it, but not the same day.
okay. And then if you don't even do that, then the minute the escrow officer or the title company tells you it's confirmed, you're good to give the buyer the keys. However, going back to this, if it's going to be, sometime between 1 to 29 days, the form over here, they're specifying. So if it's 29 or fewer, use the SIP. If it's 30 or more, use the RLAS. Okay. So the RLAS is residential lease after sale. Okay. And that form, if you haven't seen it, looks like a rental agreement.
So we're doing an SIP even for the traditional 3 days.
Yes.
All right.
Write that down. Okay. All right. And then greater than 30 plus.
And I think it's a good thing only because anything could happen in those 3 days, and that
Oh,
just gives your
I
buyer.
get it. Because prior to, we just said, yeah, take 3 days, and no one signed anything.
Yes.
Yep. If it's tenant occupied, you check that box, M3, and if check C, you'll use the TOPA, tenant occupied property addendum. I believe that's a new form. I don't remember ever seeing a TOPA. Okay.
Yes, I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
Topa.
TOPA. TOPA. Okay, here we go. Seller delivery of documents, which had already mentioned it before. Here it says it one more time, 7 days. Sign and return the escrow, basically the escrow instructions, 5 days after receipt. Time to pay fees for ordering HOA documents, 3 days after acceptance. Pretty good. Install smoke detector, CO detector, and water heater bracing. You're assumed to do it within 7 days of acceptance. So you don't have to be like, I'm going to admit that it happens too often that smoke detectors and carbon monoxide, I'm scrambling the day of the appraisal, right?
Who has them in their trunk?
I should. Yeah. I had an appraiser say, well, just keep one in your car and we'll just take a picture. Like,
That's exactly. They don't care if it's not there 20 minutes later.
right.
Use it for the next one.
All right. So now we're moving on. So actually that's pretty good, right? That now they're specifying days a little more clear.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so now items included and excluded.
Then there's delays on your loan if those things are not in.
Yeah. Okay, included and excluded. Items included. There are many, many more items included here than what we've had in the past. That's a good thing. So you have to specify if you want it to stay. So let me say the biggest one that's new to us, but should be said. Video doorbells.
Yes.
So if you go to a property, start to get in the habit. If you notice it has a Ring doorbell, check that box off. So there's no ambiguity and there's no uncomfortable conversations when it's missing and your buyer's like, what happened to the Ring doorbell? Same thing goes for some of these other things. Security cameras, security systems. You have to write it. Here's the wall mounted brackets. So if you don't check off that you want the brackets for the TV, if you don't check it off, the seller will take it. If you don't check it off, it's assumed the seller will take it. So it works both ways.
You know what's going to end up happening is just like it happens with other stuff. Some agents are going to check off everything, whether it's there or not.
It's true.
But then still on the listing and in the MLS,
And be careful.
whatever they decided to exclude, right? Whatever they're saying is not, in other words, if they say this and this and this and this is not being sold with the home, it would be kind of counterproductive to then go ahead and ask for the refrigerator that they don't want to give up, right? Or whatever.
Everything's still negotiable until they arrive at a price. So
Yeah.
they can keep asking, even though you said no already.
No, but be careful because if they check a washer and dryer and there's no washer and dryer and you don't counter it out,
I know,
they
right?
may be
Exactly.
expecting you to purchase one.
Oh, geez.
Washer and dryer that's over there at Sears.
Oh, man.
But to your point, Mario, let's say your listing says that the stove is not included.
Right.
And you don't notice that this buyer's agent checked off that the stove, oven, or whatever are to stay with the house.
Yeah, because it's one of those really old bitchin' ones or something.
Right.
But it is not a defense. After this is signed, it is not a defense that I put in the MLS that it was excluded because you missed it, that the buyer's agent wrote it.
Well, not in the MLS, but what if it's in the disclosures on an accepted offer? I mean, oh, well, no, they would see that, well,
They wouldn't
they're
have
not gonna-
disclosures.
The point is, this is your time to clarify. and
yeah, okay, I got you.
Just be careful.
This is not gonna hold up then if it says, okay,
The offer trumps everything else.
There you go. Thank you.
there you go.
So excluded items, it has a place for that to write a few things there.
You know what, that they have it already pre-checked, bathroom mirrors. See that?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pre-checked, yeah.
You know what, I'm glad that they had, I've only had this happen one time, but beautiful remodeled bathroom and had a beautiful mirror with a real fancy frame, but it was hanging on a nail. There was no medicine cabinet, but that was there. When they sold, they unhooked it and they took it with them. And because it wasn't attached, we didn't have any grounds to stand on. But it was kind of a chicken shit move, you know?
Yeah, it is.
How much did that new mirror cost you, Gabe?
You know what? Yeah, it was $300. $300.
There you go. I knew it.
I gave him $300.
That's what I figured.
I mean, the two right there after that, that's interesting. The electric car charging system,
Oh,
which
yeah.
you would think it was going to stay anyways because it was built in, but good idea to check it off. And then they finally put, I don't remember potted plants ever being.
Yeah, no, never been there.
No, but that's
That's good.
probably, that comes up a lot. That comes
Yep.
up a lot more than you would think.
It does. Okay. All right. There we go.
People are picky about that.
Okay. All right. Who's going to pay for what? Let me just make sure. Okay. Here we go. Right there. You guys see it okay? I'll zoom a little bit. Okay. All right. Natural hazard. Okay. Carmen is there. So this is where you check off who's to pay for it. If both are checked, costs will be split. Interesting. So, I mean, I know we're used to escrow being both, but we'll get to escrow in a second. But anyway, so you can check off both. That's new. But the natural hazard there, it has environmental on the side. So if you want to get the Cadillac of natural hazard disclosure reports, you can check off environmental. Okay, if you want to ask for another report, you can put it there. And who's going to pay for it? So I know it's not a subject we talk about and they've taken it out, but if you want to ask for a termite report, you can ask for it there. Remember, we've talked about if you ask for it in a contract, you're opening up a can of worms that if you said that there's a termite report out there, the lender may want to see it. And if the seller or the buyer don't want to pay for it, but you've put it in here, lender's going to say who's going to pay for it. So just be careful there. But anyways, you can do that. How about a pre-sale report? I don't see it anywhere else. So I guess we would do, well, no, it's below, sorry. But anyway, any other report you want, you can ask for it there. I know we wouldn't use this form if it was commercial, and probably wouldn't do a phase 1 report or anything like that, but you know, whatever. Smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, water heater bracing to be paid for and performed by so-and-so, buyer or seller or both. Government required point of sale inspections and reports, AKA pre-sale inspections, to be paid for by buyer, seller, or both. I'm okay. Well, again, I was going to say I'm confused by the both, but I get it. It's supposed to be split. But government required point of sale corrective remedial actions, I guess. Oh,
I guess
okay.
that's separate free from the inspection,
Yeah,
the corrections.
the corrections or the clearance, right? So the first one is who's going to pay for obtaining the report and making that report complete. And the second one is who's going to perform the things that are in that report so that there is some type of completion or clearance. Wow.
Seller,
Okay.
seller.
Seller. That's right. I should be saying that for the folks on the line that are newer. All right, escrow. I guess we will continue. Hey, look, I don't have to write it anymore. Each to pay.
Yeah.
I don't have to write it. It only took 20 something years. Each to pay their own, you can check that off. Or you can check off a certain side to pay for everybody. Okay, all right. Both, I guess stay away from both because then it will be 50-50. And if you don't want it to be 50-50, don't check off both. If you want buyer related to be paid for by the buyer and seller related to be paid by the seller, then check off each to pay their own fees. All right. Owner's title policy, just like before, usually the seller pays for that. Actually, I'm going to take one step to go over to the right and point out escrow holder. So the escrow holder shall be, and you'll name who's going to be the escrow holder. Same thing with the title company. Who's going to be the title company? You would put it there. This is going to be your new place to write seller's choice.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Buyers, oh, look at this. Buyers lender title policy. They're specifying that now, so that way the buyer it's made aware that they are paying for it. Doesn't even give the option for anyone but the buyer to pay for it.
Right.
Unless otherwise agreed, buyer shall purchase the title insurance policy for the buyer's lender. All right. County transfer tax to be paid by who? Normally the seller. City transfer tax to be paid by who? Normally the seller. All right. HOA fees for preparing the disclosures. Ooh. So the doc prep fee, for the HOA is to be paid by the seller. That they're specifying. There's no negotiation apparently. And the HOA certification fee, the HOA cert, which who needs that? The lender, paid for by the buyer, no negotiation. Okay. Transfer fee apparently can be paid by one or the other or split. That's fine. Normally paid for by the seller. And then, even though we don't really see this around here, private transfer fees, just like it was before, but the default is that it's going to be paid for by the seller. This is actually one that has a default. Okay, so-and-so fees or costs will be paid for by the buyer or seller. I'll give you an example. Transaction coordination fees to be paid for by buyer, or you may write buyer TC fees to be paid by buyer, seller TC, and then fees or costs. I think you're going to have people at first, hopefully everyone gets this part here about the government point of sale and the government point of sale corrective actions, but you may see that here. You may see people put it here,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Anyone else can think of anything else that would go under Q 16 and 17 that I'm missing?
No.
Home warranty. Okay, here it comes. Home warranty. You'll put in the name of the company for the home warranty plan, I'm assuming, right there. Paid for by buyer or seller, or split it, or buyer waives it. Okay, I am wrong, by the way. I'm wrong. It says cost on the right. Cost not to exceed blank number of dollars issued by, and that's where you'll put the company or seller's choice, or I know we just read it said the buyer is going to choose, right? That was our takeaway from that, from further down in the contract. So it was brought up that, well, are you asking for a first class upgrade? Are you asking for an Eagle protection plan? Are you asking for whatever the certain, you want to add AC, or you want to add pool, or you want to add roof? I see, Carmen, I see that people would just put that in this blanks unless I'm missing something.
If
You
it
know what?
allows to type, yes, they could put it there.
Yeah.
That would be a good place to put it.
Yeah.
You know what, Michael, I think because they kind of gave you the disclaimer on the first half saying the buyer chooses everything.
Okay.
All we really have to put down here is the amount not to exceed.
Okay.
Because if he chooses something that's going to exceed that amount, he's going to pay for it.
Okay.
So we don't have to, I guess it eliminates having to check off upgrade, AC or anything else. It's all included if it covers by the amount,
Okay.
I would think.
So I just wonder what the blank lines are for then. I apologize. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be the company? Oh, no, it's over here, right?
Yeah, because it's over there. So that's why I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
you're right.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I'm
that
writing
way
it down
it
so I
would
can
be a good
ask.
place to put coverage.
Well, I guess that's where he makes his choices.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You could put the coverage, I guess.
Yeah.
the options, yes.
Right, right.
We won't know
Um,
until we start practicing using it.
That's right. I gotta call you back. I'm on Zoom. That was Alex.
Hey, Michael, you could
Yes.
refer to 10C and see what 10C says, no?
Let's do that.
I mean, it's there. I don't know what
Let's go.
I don't know what it could possibly say that we haven't thought of, but
I'm coming. Here it comes.
yeah. 10.
But look, that's pretty cool though. It specifies the point of sale requirements and that we talked about above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's gonna be a whole other class, not for tonight though. Okay. Yes, Mario and Gabe, you're right. It's here. Buyer shall choose the coverages. Regardless of any optional coverages indicated of the home warranty. And buyer shall pay any cost of that plan chosen by buyer that exceeds the amount allocated.
Yeah.
Do you think that gets us out of doing an amendment every time the amount exceeds the amount the seller? Look at that.
Exactly.
Hey.
Say, because escrow always says, well, who's going to pay for it?
And
It's already there.
Monica always insists on an amendment if it's above the specified amount.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I do too, so that would definitely eliminate that.
An amendment and then an addendum and
Right.
It's in the escrow, Monica actually has it in the escrow instructions, but it's more so to protect us, the broker, because the escrow instructions only protect escrow. They don't protect us. We need to
Got it.
have everything disclosed in a CAR form.
Okay. I like that it still says about that waiver, even if it's waived, the buyer can still purchase it. That's good.
right.
Okay, so I wanted to spend most of the time there. We did a good job there. Here it talks about, if you're going to add addendums for different things. I will admit I don't know going forward if you are writing a probate purchase agreement. Is this saying that we will still use an RPA and all we need to do is use the probate purchase agreement? Or is
I
there
think
going to
so.
be a new probate purchase agreement completely, and we won't use the RPA for that?
The attorney mentioned, Michael, that this is to be used for the probate as the probate instead of the probate purchase agreement. This
You'll use-
contract, this RPA,
Perfect. So
instead of a probate purchase agreement.
perfect. That's
Or
great.
the manufactured home purchase.
Yeah, so each of those, that's perfect. And then here's that box if you have a tenant that's staying in the property. That's good. Tenants in common purchase agreement, stock co-op purchase agreement. All
I
right.
like the one that says tenant occupied property addendum.
Mhm.
That is so neat.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So short sale with if it is a probate, you'll use the probate, and then it also has for court confirmation for that. That's great.
That
So
one's- yeah.
so there's going to be a lot of neat new forms. So they weren't kidding. They put on the board last week in Anaheim. They put on the board all the acronyms, for all the new forms, and it was like it took up the whole screen, with RPA being big in the middle. So, all right, that's good. Okay, all right. Well, I could end here unless there's questions or thoughts or comments.
I have a question. Can we get a copy of that list of all the acronyms? I mean, I always have to log on to CAR just to see what a form is sometimes.
I'll get
I'll
it from
unshare.
CAR. They're in the CAR website. I'll pull them.
Yeah, because it'd be nice if we actually called the form what it's supposed to be called.
I think I had sent it before, right, Michael?
No,
Of the new forms or of all forms that are
The
in
list
our
of
zip forms?
What all the forms are.
Oh yeah, with what it's called, right?
Yes, I had sent it before, but I'll go ahead and get you the one from CAR, directly from CAR. There is one,
So,
okay?
oh,
Thank you, Carmen.
Mhm.
just give me one sec. Choose virtual background. See the mess behind me here, but whatever. So that was the what was put on the screen that I took a picture of. So anyways, all right. All good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for everyone else joining tonight. But Byron,
Yeah.
Byron had and Astrid had company tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you,
Have a good night,
Michael.
All
everyone.
right.
Good night.
Good night.